compared to her, I'm junior varsity. I mean, 6, that's a big deal. Do we have moms here tonight? You guys are tired. Okay, that's good. You made it. You're out. Chewed through the straps. Congratulations. I love being a mom. I would have to say that being a mom is like the best thing that I've ever done by far. But I'm not going to downplay it. You have to go through the hard part before you can get there. And I'm not talking about having like the birth part of it, or even the conception. What I'm talking about is dealing with those like overbearing, nosy neighbor ladies that get all up in your business. Did that ever happen to you? It was horrible for me. I am a really, really private person. I do not like people getting all up in my business. It's kind of a miracle that I was pregnant in this story anyhow. I'm more of the era, like in my day, we wouldn't tell people that we were pregnant until like a couple of months into it. And I feel like these days, girls haven't put their underpants back on and they're calling all of their friends and posting on social media. The whole time that I was pregnant with both of my kids, I had this awful pain on my side yard. It was my neighbor Rose, and I called her Thorn, and she would not leave me alone. Every time I'd be out working in the garden, like the fence would be screaming at me, and it drove me crazy. I decided one day enough was enough. So when her nose came through the slats and I heard, "Do you want a boy or a girl?" I just said, look, Rose, I'm not really all that convinced about this or that concerned with this one's gender. I'm just hoping and praying that it's white. Not because I'm a racist, but because my husband is. White, I mean. And I feel like that is going to be a super long day at the hospital, if we don't have a match set all going home together. And wow, you guys, that really, really worked. She has not said a word to me since that day, and it's been decades. My boys are at a fun age. They're at this stage right now where they're kind of half man, half child. Anyone dealing with that age group? I know you're dealing with that age group. My friend Lana's here. We grew up, well, we didn't really grow up together. We're both still looking for a place to grow up. But when we were younger, we lived in the same neighborhood. So anyhow, my boys are at this funny stage where they're like half man, half child. And what that means is that they'll say things to me like, "Stop treating me like I'm a baby," and "Hell yes, I want an Easter basket." There is nothing in the world creepier than a hungover, bearded dude holding a sparkly basket of eggs first thing Easter Sunday. I've seen it. Can't really unsee it. I guess as a rule of thumb, I think for us as parents, sometimes it's hard to let go of those beloved traditions. But when you get to the point that like edibles and condoms and concert tickets are the right things to put in the basket, it's probably time to move it along, try something new. I feel like their perfect evening would be like a Blues Clues booze cruise, Everything they love out on a boat at one time. We went out shopping a while ago, and our day ended up involving both looking at handguns as well as a visit to the Disney store. I mean, you can't make that up, right? It's got to be true. And it is true. We went to Cabela's because they're sporty. And at one point I found my younger son, and in fact he was looking at the handgun case. Now as a mom, that will make you stop in your tracks. So I asked, "What are you doing here, young man?" And he said, he thinks he needs protection. So now I'm really frightened. We had to kind of talk this through, and we got to the bottom of it. Come to find out, he had plans later that evening with a young lady, and she had asked him to bring protection, He got confused. Yeah, it's like, don't worry, we didn't pull the trigger. Well, I mean, anyhow, I think what's going on is like he's 6'1", but he hasn't quite nailed context yet. You know, I do think he nailed poor little Rachel later that day, but yeah, still working on context. There were hard times when they were little too. I mean, like there was the night that we ended up at Hooters because they loved owls and I hated saying no. They used to deliberate. They were so indecisive. We'd go into a gift shop and the deal was they could each pick out one little trinket to purchase. And they were so indecisive. They would spend hours and hours unable to settle on that one item that we were going to take home. I started to think maybe there was something wrong with them. Like, is there such a thing as souvenirial disease? I don't know. There was another time when my older son was getting ready to go to a sleepover, and he wanted to pack all of his Toy Story action figures. And he had them all lined up in his room, getting ready to go. And I realized all of a sudden there was something really wrong with his lineup. And then it occurred to me, oh my God, my son has a big Buzz and a little Woody. Like, is there anything that could be worse ever than a guy at a sleepover that has a big Buzz and a little Woody? I guess you could throw a handgun into the little Disney backpack. That might make it worse, but that's about the only thing, you know? So, trigger alert, I'm going to use the C word, and I know I signed something before I came here that said don't use the C word, but the coronavirus has impacted all of us, and it has just been too big of a story to ignore. Awful. So much has been so awful in the last year, but you know, there have been good things about it too. Like, this was a great year to take up ventriloquism, or to get braces, or think about all the kids that would have been bullied or shot at school. This was a great time for them, wasn't it? But then, of course, we just found out that those kids, once they got home and had to be with their parents full time, were going to get bullied and shot at home as well. No, it's not all bad. I mean, we've all really had to grow as people. Some of us by more than 20 pounds. Like when someone says to me, "Why are you wearing this outfit?" It's like, because I can. But no, I mean, we had to kind of dig deep and be resourceful. I cooked more in the last year than I have in the previous 20. I learned how to make croutons. Did you even know that you could make croutons at home? I had no idea. Stick around after the show, I'll tell you the recipe. It's way easier than you would think. We had to figure out ways to economize and save money. I figured out early on that I could be saving a ton of money every month on my home mortgage by switching to my boyfriend's house. No, it was, but you know, there were some hard things. One of the hardest things was seeing my comedy peers try to continue to perform. If you've ever been on Facebook and you're scrolling through and find yourself suddenly on someone's Facebook live show, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you can't just fling a Seahawks quilt over your flat screen TV and call it a comedy lounge. When you stumble on that, you've got just the one little eyeball, so you know that they see you and you see them. You just want to kind of back out. It's like walking in on your parents having sex. It's just so awkward. Weddings had to be canceled. The closest people got to walking down the aisle was a trip to Costco, as Cassidy just mentioned, you know. But that's kind of got its own level of intrigue, doesn't it? You don't know. You might get a hot kiss in housewares or a hot dog by the front door, you know? I don't know. I just want to get back to things the way they used to be. You know, in my day and age, social distancing meant that you would just try to avoid your creepy uncle at a family gathering. Or it was like the way that the really popular girls treated me in high school. Right, Lana? You remember? And like, in the old days, like a super spreader event, that was just a great first date. So my precious darling children that I mentioned, they just got matching tattoos. And don't worry, I'm not going to do that thing that moms do where I freak out and act like they vandalized something that I worked 9 months on. But that's exactly what they did. I think for them, though, I think they just love the idea of buying something with their money that they can't lose, you know? They've really embraced this permanent trend, and it makes me wonder if I remember to teach them what the word permanent or the word trend means. I don't know. I think for me, I don't think I could do it because I have massive commitment issues. Like, I've regretted letting kids put those little press-on tattoos on my arm because I had plans later. I don't know. I feel like I get why they're doing it because all of their friends have ink. When I was their age, the only guy that I knew that had any tattoos was this guy whose house we used to go to really, really late at night after we had been drinking to buy stuff that we weren't going to tell our parents about, you know? I can picture his place right now. Like, there was always something on the porch that didn't belong, you know, like a refrigerator or a baby. But you couldn't see it until it was too late because someone had shot out the porch light, you know. Once inside, there was always a chick passed out on the couch. That's where I know you from. No. No, I'm glad that it hasn't been the trend all my life. I feel like the reason that I have a hard time with it is that it's going to be used as kind of a time-telling device. Like, I feel like kids in 20 years are going to say, no way, you know, I'm not going to get ink. My dad has ink. And like, I worry that today's majestic eagle in a forest setting with a, you know, sunrise behind it is going to be like tomorrow's dad jeans. Or today's tramp stamp is going to be tomorrow's time stamp, you know? So who's here on a date tonight? Nice. You might relate to some of this. I think the problem with dating these days is that, I'll tell this to you, yeah. No, I think what's hard about dating these days is that what we seek and what we find are such different things. Like, we want to find a guy that's highly educated, and we find a guy that's just high, you know? We want a guy that will take charge and make, okay, see, I struck a nerve. Am I right or am I right? Yeah.
Or both.
Or both, there you go. We want a guy that will take charge and make reservations, not cause us to have reservations. We want somebody that will take us out on exciting hiking adventures in the wilderness, not drag us through the woods by our hair. We want dating. Like, we don't want to end up on Dateline NBC after our car has been found on an abandoned road. I don't know. I think we want to have like a meaningful 30-year conversation with someone, and quite often we find that we can't even get through a loaf of bread with these guys, you know? I don't know. I guess the thing that's important is that when you're dating, you have to remain really open-minded and really flexible. And I don't mean like flexible so you can fit in the trunk of a car. I mean flexible just because you never know where this whole thing is headed. Like, you have to keep your mind really open and manage your expectations. You've got to equally be able to imagine yourself in a wedding dress or in a dumpster, you know? And honestly, maybe both at the same time, if your magical day truly derails, you know? I don't know. I mean, I feel like, you know, women go to the dating sites because they want to find one great guy. And Bumble gives us like 50 mediocre guys, you know? It's like, here, figure it out. And then you feel like, gosh, you've got to come up with, you know, composite scorecards. Or I, at one point, did kind of an FBI-style profile wall in my dining room with string and photos and timelines, you know. There's just so much information and so many details to get straight. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. Yeah. The reason that I know that that happens, that they cast the nets wide in order to find us a Prince Charming, is that Bumble set my target age range at 25 to 80. That's all the guys. That's everybody. And I shouldn't be so negative. I mean, I guess it was great that I had so many opportunities, but no, that's just too many. I mean, I guess I can see that there would be advantages to dating an 80-year-old. Give me a second. Oh, I know. Let's say you don't like breakups, you know? When the time came, you could just kind of wait it out, let nature take its course. Periodically, I would hear from the younger guys, like the 25-year-olds. I don't need to hear from that age group. If I want to hang with that age group, I can plan a family dinner. And when it did happen, it would just trigger this weird mom thing in the back of my head. Like, I would get really, really suspicious. Like, there is something up here, and I intend to get to the bottom of it. Like, worst case scenario, maybe I've gotten mixed up in some kind of a gang initiation ritual, you know? And I don't know if it's dress or dumpster. Best case scenario, maybe this is like an Eagle Scout Cougar patch thing that's gone wrong. I don't know. Anyhow, I'm happy to report that I am no longer dating. I am engaged. I met the cute, smart, and funny Dr. Wonderful in 2019, and we've been pretty much inseparable since. Yeah, he's wonderful. I mean, he is a used husband, but that's actually a really good thing, I find, because he kind of came preloaded, like he's perfectly trained. The other day, I said to him, you know, you don't have to agree with every single thing I ever say. And he said, you're right. I know, I don't have to agree with everything you ever say. So we're having a great time. We've been doing a ton of traveling. We thoroughly enjoy each other's company. But you know, it's all about give and take. I mean, there's work involved in relationships as well. I've been spending a lot of time on my knees because he's religious. What did you guys think? I don't know. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good. So one of the things that I struggle with as I'm losing my train of thought is I always kind of wonder, like, if I'm old or not. Like, how do you know if you're old or not? I have friends that are dying and also friends that are having babies. So they're absolutely no help. You know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to figure out how to figure out where I'm at kind of in life's journey. And someone said that the thing to do is you go out in public and you fall down and draw a lot of attention to yourself. And then you can tell based on how people react. If everyone comes running, you're screwed. If everyone starts laughing at you, then you're fine. You're still on the right side of being old. And I think that that's horrible. I mean, people could really, really get hurt by falling down in public. There's got to be an easier way. Like, I don't know, do your neighbors check on you? Do you get the paper? Do you still watch the 5 o'clock news really, really loud? Are you a burden to your children? I think one of the best ways to decide if you're old or not, are you unable to date older people now because there aren't any? Another thing I came up with, a good way to figure out if you're old is if you've ever been lost. Do you guys remember getting lost? That was the worst. I used to get so flustered because I would always be late and lost at the same time, and I hated that. The only time I used to love to get lost was in Palm Springs because the directions you would get from people are hysterical. Like, okay, let me get this straight. So you want me to get on Dinah Shore and then go down on Lucille Ball, turn on Frank Sinatra, hope I don't get killed or at the very least my knees broken, and then stay on Bob Hope until I come to my hotel? Yeah, I miss that. The reason that we don't ever have to get lost anymore, though, is now we've got these great navigation programs like Waze. I'm sure that's how all of you guys got here tonight. Waze is amazing. I mean, it really, really works, but it takes you on some crazy routes, you know, like down side streets and through alleys across Mrs. Johnson's yard. Earlier today, to get here, it had me jump on a funeral procession to save 5 minutes. I'm not proud, but I did it, and it worked. But no, what is great about Waze is that it not only tells you like what's up on the horizon, but more importantly, it tells you how to handle the situation. And now I feel like, forget road navigation, I need a whole life navigation program. Wouldn't that be spectacular? I mean, this guy looking up into the space. You could have used it earlier tonight. It's like, watch out. Parking's gonna be a bitch at Joker's. They're gonna run out of your favorite IPA, and the comedians are mediocre at best. Or like for me, I could be in the grocery store on a Saturday afternoon with no sense at all that danger was lurking nearby. You know, I'm ass deep in the LaCroix trying to find my favorite flavor, which is passion fruit, by the way, when I would hear like, watch out. Ex-mother-in-law on aisle 3. Proceed to produce with caution. Or I'd be heading in, whistling, going to my favorite Mexican food restaurant when I would hear, there's a gropey drunk guy by the taco bar, and the guacamole looks disgusting. Avoid area entirely. One time, just one time, in my comedy career as well as in my life, I would like to just hear a little bit less of you're going the wrong way and just once hear you've arrived. It's so nice to be here. I love being in comedy clubs. I feel right at home in comedy clubs, and I think it's because comedy clubs are so much like home. Like there's a lot of drinking and yelling and disappointment. A lot of nights I end up just sitting in back by myself, you know, kind of rocking quietly, coloring in my journal or drawing, oftentimes with no dinner. I kind of started being a comedian as a child at home. It's kind of sad, but it was my desperate way to get my mom's attention. I had heard somewhere that if you can make a woman laugh, you can get her to do just about anything. And most mornings I needed some breakfast and a ride to school. But that's not the only great reason to do comedy. I love doing comedy because I get to hang around with comedians, you know. Comedians are a great time, obviously. Who wouldn't want to hang out with comedians without having to buy tickets? And also, next to comedians, I look positively squared away. I mean, these are some broken folks. Like, most of them are on a spectrum, you know, somewhere between like Robin Williams and the Joker. There's a reason that they keep us all in back and bring us up one by one, announcing our names really loudly. That's for your safety, not for ours. I never can tell if the security detail is supposed to be keeping the good guys out or in, you know? I found a piece of paper backstage recently, and I couldn't be sure if it was someone's set list or a suicide note. Or both. You know what's funny is, yeah, my set list and my suicide notes could be the same. It's great opportunity to double up and catch up, you know. But yeah, it's challenging to find your way. Like, I don't think I could date comedians. I enjoy hanging out with them, but I don't think well, first of all, because I'm engaged, and you probably wouldn't like that. But it's also because I couldn't have someone that was going to stand up here and talk about me the way that I talk about everyone else. That would be horrible. With a comedian, anything you say or do can and will be used against you on the stage of comedy. So, and besides, I don't do really well in basements, you know. So anyone that's dealt with that musty smell in their clothing and bedding knows what I'm talking about. It's hard to hang out with non-comedians as well. Years ago, I went on a date with this guy, and as we were driving to the restaurant, he said, you know, you really should be writing all of these funny things you think down on paper. Until I had pulled my notebook out 3 times during dinner, and then I was just being rude. He wanted me to stop, but at that point I couldn't because I was working on this bit about what a jerk he was, so I kept having to excuse myself and go to the bathroom to get it all out, you know, like a bulimic might. And then I thought that the hostess is going to be on to me and think that something's going on. So then I kind of, when I came out of the bathroom to cover for it, I told her, you know, I'm doing lines of jokes, not coke. Anyhow, that's enough out of me. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Keep it going for Megan Gross. Amazing. I wish she was my mom. I just thought of this, Megan, and I don't know if you'd agree with me. I realized that